Why do you pick up your phone without even knowing why? Your thumb unlocks the screen before you've had a single thought, a gesture so ordinary it vanishes into the background of your life, until you notice something unsettling. It doesn't feel like you chose the moment, it feels like the phone chose you. Welcome to NeuroNap Academy. My name is Marco, and tonight we'll explore the hidden brain science of your smartphone, the slot machine design of notifications, the dopamine sparks behind every buzz, and the invisible puppeteers fine-tuning color, timing, and vibration to keep you hooked. But here's the deeper question. If your brain can be controlled and programmed by external forces, then how much of you is really you? Because I want this journey to be complete and transformative, I've prepared a free, practical guide with a clear summary of tonight's video. You'll find it in the description, like a map you can return to whenever you need it. Stay with me as we step into the shocking brain science of why your phone controls you right now. You lift your phone almost without realizing it. The screen blooms, your eyes adapt to the glow, as if sunlight slipped through a curtain, but no one called, no badge flashed, no buzz arrived. You're staring anyway, because a pathway in you fired before you noticed. You may not even remember what you meant to check, therefore the action becomes the destination. This ordinary moment hides a mechanism. Your hand knows the route, because it has rehearsed it thousands of times. Your thumb hovers ready, because motor programs launch faster than thought. Something moves before awareness, therefore the decision feels like yours only after it's already in motion. The brain conducts hidden orchestras. In fractions of a second, deep circuits pulse and prioritize. They don't wait for language, because survival never did. They anticipate, push, and guide muscles as if you were a marionette, but the strings are habits you built yourself. Picture walking through a familiar kitchen in the dark. You don't think where cups live or how many steps reach the sink, because the map is in your body. Phone reaching rides the same traces, therefore the object stops being a tool and becomes a reflex. Science sharpens the frame. The unlock can happen in under a second after the first impulse, because premotor signals outrun conscious deliberation. What feels like choice is often confirmation. Therefore, I decided arrives as narration, not ignition. Think of a river. At the mountain's lip, tiny flows set a course, because gravity does the rest. The valley merely receives the river already determined. Conscious thought is the valley, broad, visible, slow. The impulse is the drop, small, decisive, unseen. Therefore, much of choice is postscript. That idea unsettles because we love control. But quick automaticity once kept your ancestors alive. Hands shot from heat, feet jumped from snakes, arms caught falling children. The brain learned shortcuts because speed beat reflection. Therefore, the same shortcuts now clasp glass. To that circuitry, unlocking differs little from swatting a fly. It's a trained protective motion, but no real danger or nourishment sits behind the pain. The phone acts like a mirror with pull. You look not always to find a thing, because the looking itself has been etched into rhythm. Therefore you unlock and forget why. The implications cut deeper. If a device can train action without thought, the line between tool and master blurs, because behavior follows the path of least resistance. Are you holding it, or is it holding you? The question lingers because design exploits exactly these reflexes. Experiments add a twist. People mispredict their checks, undercount the frequency, and remember reasons after the fact. Because the cue often arrives beneath awareness. The buzz is obvious, but the silent pull between buzzes is stronger. Therefore, much of your day is steered by signals you never name. Picture a puppet stage. You believe you're the puppeteer, but in quiet moments the strings tug back, because the choreography was set by repetition and refined by others. That reversal isn't metaphor only. Therefore, the daily play keeps running even when you swear you're improvising. What does that say about freedom? Perhaps freedom isn't the absence of influence but awareness of it. You may not stop an impulse from rising because it blooms upstream. Therefore you learn to notice, to slow, to ask whether it serves you. Without that pause, scripts written by prophet and habit run the scene. This is where the revelation starts. The unconscious unlock is not harmless. It opens a door where ancient survival systems are recruited by modern design because attention is valuable. Therefore checking, swiping, and scrolling become self-reinforcing loops. Hold that thought and breathe once. You unlocked without reason, but now you have a reason to notice. Awareness won't erase the urge because urges live deep. Therefore, awareness gives you something sturdier, a fraction of choice. So the question isn't whether you unlocked by choice, it's this: because your brain can be led so quietly, what else might already be following, and how will you begin to take the lead? Your phone is silent on the table, yet it feels alive. You glance at it the way someone might glance at the door of a casino, knowing that behind it chance and reward wait. It isn't merely a tool anymore. It has been shaped into something much closer to a slot machine in your pocket. Imagine walking through a real casino. Lights flicker, bells chime, coins tumble, and the air feels heavy with possibility. Even if you don't play, your body reacts. Your heart rate shifts, your palms itch. This is not coincidence. Casinos are designed around the delicate machinery of your attention. Every sound, every color, every movement in that space is carefully tuned to keep you there. Your phone follows the same logic. Behind its sleek glass and quiet hum lies an architecture of psychology. Apps are not neutral. They are crafted with principles borrowed from behavioral science, neuroscience, and years of experiments with how people respond to unpredictability. The flicker of a notification is no less calculated than the spin of a roulette wheel. Consider the pull of randomness. A message could arrive at any moment or not at all. The exact timing is unpredictable. This uncertainty, paradoxically, is what keeps you hooked. When rewards are delivered in a predictable schedule, interest fades quickly, but when they arrive like scattered stars across a dark sky, your brain leans forward, searching, expecting, hoping. That is the same mechanism that makes gamblers pull levers for hours, chasing the chance of just one more win. Now reflect on your own experience. How many times have you refreshed a feed without really knowing what you were looking for? It is the possibility of surprise, not the certainty of satisfaction, that keeps you there. This is the psychology of intermittent reinforcement. Sometimes you get something delightful, sometimes you don't, but the uncertainty itself is what locks the loop. Neuroscience gives this loop a stage. Deep inside your mind, pathways release dopamine, not only when you receive a reward, but also when you anticipate it. That means the waiting, the maybe, the not yet. These are the real anchors. Your brain lights up more in the tension before the reward than in the reward itself. A slot machine glows brightest before the real stop. Your phone glows brightest before the message appears. And the designers of these systems know it. Teams of scientists have studied how color, timing, and interaction can extend your engagement. It is no accident that notification badges are red, a color long tied to urgency and alertness. It is no accident that your feed does not end, that it scrolls into infinity. These are not coincidences, they are blueprints. Think of it this way: your attention has become a commodity. Just as a casino thrives by keeping you at the table, tech platforms thrive by keeping your eyes on the screen. Every second you stay is a second sold. You are not only the player, you are also the prize. Pause and consider the weight of this. If your phone has been shaped into a portable casino, then each glance is a wager. What you are risking is not money, but moments. Moments of focus, moments of silence, moments that could have been yours alone. Slowly, the cost becomes invisible, because the game is designed to make you forget you are playing at all. But there is something deeper still. Casinos are places where the outside world fades. No windows, no clocks, no reminders of time passing. Phones create the same trance. You enter for a minute, but hours can dissolve. This is not about weakness of will. It is about the deliberate design of timelessness. Without edges, without natural stops, your brain struggles to say enough. Here is the paradox. The very device you bought to save time ends up stealing it. The tool that promised efficiency becomes a place of endless detours. You check for a single message, but end with half an hour lost. Like a gambler who only meant to play once, you find yourself pulled back into another spin. And yet within this realization lies a question worth carrying forward. If casinos use every trick to keep people inside, what does it mean that you carry one with you every day? In your pocket, at your bedside, at the dinner table? What does it mean to live in a world where the lure is always within reach? This is not to say your phone is evil. It is to say it is designed, and to see the design is to begin to see the choice. Awareness is the first crack in the trance. Take a moment. Picture the casino doors. Picture the glowing screen. Ask yourself, when you open it next, who is placing the bet? You or the machine that already knows how to call your hand? Because the truth is, the chemistry of reward does not stop here. It goes deeper, into the very substances that light your brain with desire. And the next step in our journey is to uncover the quiet river that runs beneath every notification, every scroll, every pull of anticipation. Dopamine, a small sound, a vibration, a glow of light. These are the sparks that summon one of the most powerful chemicals inside your brain, a molecule that whispers promises rather than delivers them outright. It is called dopamine, though you don't need to remember the name to feel its pull. You know it as the quickening of your pulse, the tug that makes you reach for your phone again, the restless itch when you resist. This chemical is not about happiness, as many people believe. It is about pursuit. It is the signal that says something rewarding might be just ahead. Keep going. Long before smartphones, this system guided your ancestors to forage for berries, to hunt, to explore new territory. Without it, curiosity would wither, motivation would collapse, and survival would have been impossible. Now, this ancient signal has been recruited for another purpose. Each time your phone buzzes, the same circuits that once drove you toward food or shelter light up. It is not the message itself that excites you, it is the possibility of the message. The phone becomes a modern berry bush, always promising another sweet discovery. The trick lies in unpredictability. If every time you pulled down your notifications you found something dull, your brain would lose interest. But sometimes, tucked between the trivial, is something that feels precious. A friend's words, a piece of news, a flash of attention directed your way. This sometimes yes, sometimes no pattern is the most powerful form of reward known in behavioral science. It is the same principle that makes slot machines addictive. You never know when the win will come, so you keep spinning. Picture it like this. You are standing before a locked chest. Most times you open it, you find nothing. But occasionally, there is a jewel. The very uncertainty makes the act of opening irresistible. Pulling to refresh a feed, tapping an app, or glancing at your lock screen all carry the same energy. The next jewel might be waiting. In your brain, this creates a rhythm of surges and drops. A notification appears, your dopamine system spikes, anticipation flares. You unlock, you check, you scroll. Sometimes the reward matches the anticipation, sometimes it disappoints. Either way, the system resets, ready for another cycle. This is why you can keep scrolling for minutes or even hours, long after your conscious mind has grown bored. The chemistry does not need you to enjoy, it only needs you to keep seeking. But here lies the twist. Studies show that the anticipation of a message releases more dopamine than the message itself. Think of the moment when your phone lights up, but you haven't read it yet. That breathless instant contains more neural excitement than the words that follow. The chase outweighs the catch. The hunt matters more than the meal. Reflect on how this plays out in daily life. Perhaps you sit with friends, yet your attention drifts toward the phone on the table, wondering if something has arrived. Perhaps you lie in bed, and the last thing you see before closing your eyes is a glow, and the first thing you see upon waking is the same glow. You are not addicted to the messages themselves, but to the possibility of them. The device does not merely inform you, it trains you to crave uncertainty. Imagine a fisherman casting a line. Each throw may bring nothing, or it may bring a catch. The act of casting becomes its own reward, sustained by possibility. The infinite scroll of your feed is the same. Every flick of the thumb is a cast, every new post a potential catch. You are the fisherman, but also the fish, drawn back by the same cycle. And yet, there is something profoundly human about this system. Curiosity, drive, persistence. These qualities built civilizations. Dopamine does not only bind you to your phone, it has also bound you to discovery, art, love, and exploration. The same chemistry that can trap you in endless scrolling is also what pushes you to learn, to create, to reach out to another person. So the question is not whether dopamine is friend or foe. It is both. It is a tool of survival, now turned against you by designs that exploit it. It is the fire that warms your home, and the same fire that can burn it down. Pause with that thought. Each buzz, each glow is not just a digital event, it is a whisper to your ancient circuits, telling you that something is coming, that you cannot afford to look away, and every time you listen, the loop grows stronger, carving grooves into your habits, reshaping the way your attention flows. But what happens when this fire spreads too far? What happens when the systems meant to keep your impulses in check are overwhelmed by the chemistry of pursuit? In the next step of our journey, we will see how different parts of your brain, one built for reason, one built for impulse, struggle against each other for control of your hand, your eyes, and your time. You pause with your phone in hand, staring at the glow, feeling both the pull and the faint resistance against it. Inside you, two ancient systems are in quiet conflict. One urges restraint, reflection, the ability to say not now. The other is raw and insistent, pushing you to act now, to check, to grab, to indulge. This struggle is not new. It has shaped human behavior for as long as the brain has existed, but today, the battlefield is your device. At the front of this conflict lies a region of your brain that works like a careful guardian. It helps you plan, weigh consequences, and hold back from every fleeting impulse. This is the part that allows you to imagine tomorrow before you act today. Without it, you would leap into every temptation without thought. It is the voice that whispers, "Do you really need to check that now? Will it matter in 5 minutes? Will it matter in 5 years?" And then, deep below, another voice stirs. This one is older, quicker, more emotional. It is the same system that once told your ancestors to run from predators or reach for ripe fruit. It acts with urgency, flooding your body with the chemistry of desire or fear. It does not care for consequences, it cares for survival, and survival often meant acting fast. That is why, even now, your hand moves toward the phone before you think. When these two systems meet over your device, the balance is uneven. The rational guardian is slower. It takes time to gather options, to predict outcomes. The impulsive system is fast, automatic, already moving before awareness arrives. And because the phone is designed to play directly into impulses through bright colors, buzzing vibrations, and endless novelty, the older system often wins. Imagine a tug of war. On one side, a thoughtful scholar, deliberate and cautious. On the other side, a powerful sprinter, all energy and speed. The rope is your attention. When the phone lights up, the sprinter yanks hard. The scholar reaches out to resist, but by the time he gathers his strength, you've already unlocked, already scrolled. Science has shown that when you look at your phone, even without touching it, your brain's reward pathways light up in ways similar to when a person consumes certain drugs. The chemistry is not identical, but the principle is the same: external stimuli triggering internal surges, creating cravings, reinforcing habits. That is why some describe phones not just as tools, but as digital substances, objects that do not merely serve you, but reshape you. Reflect on this when your focus is pulled away mid-conversation, when your dinner cools while you scroll, when your bed becomes a second office glowing with light. You are not simply distracted, your circuits have been hijacked. Your most powerful cognitive defender, the guardian of long-term goals, has been bypassed by a system tuned for immediacy. And yet, there is a strange irony here. The rational guardian is also the part of your brain that allowed engineers, designers, and scientists to create the very devices that now override it. Your higher intelligence built the machine. Your older impulses are ensnared by it. Humanity's proudest achievements are now in tension with its oldest vulnerabilities. Pause here. Consider a candle. Its flame illuminates, warms, guides, but lean too close, and the flame burns. Your phone is such a flame. It holds knowledge, connection, possibility, yet, without awareness, it scorches your attention, consuming it second by second. This tug-of-war between guardian and sprinter plays out every day. In small, almost invisible moments, a sound interrupts your focus, a red badge catches your eye, a phantom vibration tricks your skin. Each time, the sprinter leaps first. Each time, the guardian arrives too late. But what does this mean for you, living in an age where the sprinter is constantly provoked and the guardian constantly tired? It means that your attention is not simply yours anymore. It has become the battleground where industries compete. Each notification is not just a signal, it is a soldier sent into your brain's oldest war. And if your attention can be seized so easily, then what is the cost? How does this constant tug-of-war reshape the way you live, work, and feel? To answer that, we must look closer at the hidden tools of persuasion, the small but powerful triggers that can make your body respond as if the phone were not separate from you, but a part of you. Quick pause. So far, the unconscious unlock fires first. Dopamine primes the chase, and control systems lag behind impulses. Therefore, the device moves you before you decide. Next, the tiny red dots and phantom buzz that turn cues into reflex. A tiny red dot appears on your screen, just a circle of color, no larger than the head of a pin, yet your eyes cannot resist it. You feel a spark of urgency, almost as if something inside you insists, "Look now." You didn't decide to care about this dot, it was chosen for you, designed to pierce through your awareness. Why red? Because your brain has always treated this color as a signal of importance. It is the color of ripe fruit among leaves, the color of blood that once warned of injury or danger. Even without thinking, your nervous system sharpens its focus when red appears. That simple dot is not decoration, it is a trigger, carefully placed to pull you in before your conscious mind has a chance to reflect. And then there is the buzz, a faint vibration in your pocket, or worse, the phantom version of it, when you feel a vibration that never happened. This illusion may seem strange, but it reveals how deeply the device has fused with your sensory map. Just as a person who loses a limb may still feel the presence of a missing hand, your brain can register the absence of a notification, as if it were real. The phone has been woven into your body's representation of itself. Picture it this way: the line between tool and limb is dissolving. Glass and circuits have become extensions of your skin and nerves. You don't merely use your phone, you incorporate it, the way you once incorporated a walking stick or a pair of glasses. The difference is that unlike those objects, your phone doesn't just extend your abilities, it competes for your control. Every small trigger, dot, buzz, glow, is a key that unlocks ancient reflexes. These reflexes are fast, automatic, and deeply tied to survival. When your pocket hums, it feels less like a question and more like a demand. Somewhere in your body, you are already responding before you know you are. Your muscles tighten, your heart rate changes, your hand reaches, the loop is engaged. Science confirms this with a striking fact. Many people check their phones even when they know notification has arrived. They sense it, they anticipate it, their bodies lean forward as if preparing for contact. This is not rational decision-making, it is conditioning. Like a dog that salivates at the sound of a bell, you respond not to the content itself but to the cue that content might be there. Reflect on how this shapes your daily life. Perhaps you've pulled your phone from your pocket at a red light, or reached for it in the middle of a conversation, or tapped the screen without knowing what you were hoping to find. These moments blur together until they feel invisible. Yet each one is evidence that your reflexes are being trained, honed, and reinforced by design. The designers know this. They know that once a behavior becomes automatic, it no longer requires persuasion. The phone doesn't ask you to check it, it makes checking the default. Every dot, every buzz, every subtle shift of light is part of this training. Like breadcrumbs on a path, they lead you step by step into a forest where the path never ends. And the deeper implication is this: when your device begins to act like a limb, your relationship to it changes. If it feels like a part of your body, then ignoring it feels like neglecting yourself. That is why leaving your phone behind for even a short walk can feel disorienting, even uncomfortable. You are not just without an object, you are without a piece of your extended self. Pause with this realization: a dot of color, a phantom buzz, a glow in the dark. These are not accidents. They are deliberate whispers to your nervous system, reminders that the device is always near, always waiting. Each whisper strengthens the bond, until the phone no longer feels separate, but fused with your very sense of being. But what does this mean for the flow of your everyday mind? If your reflexes are captured so completely, how does it affect your ability to remember, to concentrate, to hold thoughts in place? That is where our journey now turns, to the hidden cost paid not in moments of checking, but in the quiet erosion of memory and focus. You sit down to read, or to work, or perhaps just to watch a film. The first few minutes flow easily, but then a familiar itch rises. Your hand moves toward your phone. Maybe you resist at first, maybe you give in. Either way, the spell of focus is broken. What seemed like a smooth stream of attention now feels more like a river fragmented by stones, short bursts of flow, constant interruptions. This is where the hidden cost of constant checking emerges. Memory. Not memory of the distant past, but the fragile kind that holds your thoughts from moment to moment. The kind that allows you to follow a thread, connect ideas, and build meaning. It is called working memory, though you might know it simply as the ability to keep something in mind. Imagine trying to carry a glass of water across a room. If the path is clear, you can move smoothly, but if someone keeps bumping into you, drops spill each time, until by the end little remains. This is what happens when your phone interrupts your focus. Each notification, each glance, each quick check is a bump, spilling pieces of what you are holding in mind. The more bumps, the less water remains. Science has traced this effect with clarity. Even the presence of a phone on the table, turned off and face down, is enough to reduce performance on tasks that require memory and focus. The mind, it seems, allocates resources toward resisting the pull, leaving fewer resources for the task itself. Your attention is not only stolen when you pick up the device, it is taxed simply by being near it. Think of a candle burning in a room with open windows. The flame does not go out immediately, but it flickers, weakened by every gust. Your focus is that flame. The phone is the open window. With every draft of distraction, the light trembles. But the problem is not only loss of focus in the moment. Over time, the brain adapts. When attention is constantly broken into fragments, it becomes harder to sustain deep focus even when no phone is present. Just as muscles weaken when unused, the networks of sustained attention falter when continually interrupted. Concentration becomes less natural, more effortful, more fleeting. Now pause and reflect on how this shapes daily life. Perhaps you've noticed you can no longer read long texts without drifting. Perhaps movies feel too long without the anchor of a second screen. Perhaps silence itself feels uncomfortable, as though it must be filled with scrolling or checking. The erosion of memory is subtle, but it seeps into every part of life, changing not only what you do, but how you feel when you try to do it. There is also an emotional cost. When you lose the thread of thought again and again, frustration builds. You may blame yourself, your willpower, your discipline, your motivation, but the truth is that your brain is reacting to conditions designed to fragment it. The casino in your pocket does not want you to stay in one place. It wants you to keep spinning, tapping, refreshing. Each break in focus is not a failure of character. It is the intended outcome of design. And yet, this realization holds a seed of hope. If design can fragment attention, design can also protect it. Just as a room can be shielded from drafts, your environment can be arranged to shield your focus. But that requires first seeing clearly the invisible tax you are already paying. Consider this. What might your life feel like if your thoughts could stretch without interruption? If you could sink deeply into a task or a conversation without the tug of a glowing screen? What would your memory hold if it were not constantly spilling through cracks of distraction? The answer lies ahead, but before we reach for solutions, we must first understand the next layer of transformation, how this constant fragmentation changes not just memory, but the very way you experience stillness. Because once the mind is trained for constant stimulation, boredom itself begins to feel unbearable. You wait in line at a cafe. The hum of voices, the clatter of cups, the faint aroma of roasted beans surround you. A decade ago you might have simply stood there, eyes drifting, mind wandering. Now, almost without thought, your hand slips into your pocket. The phone emerges. A tap, a scroll, a quick glance. The line hasn't moved, but neither have you had to endure the weight of waiting. Something has shifted. Boredom, once an ordinary part of life, now feels almost intolerable. Moments of stillness become moments to be filled. The device promises that no second must remain empty, that stimulation can flow without pause. Yet what disappears in this exchange is the capacity to sit with silence, to let your mind roam without guidance. From a scientific lens, boredom is not a flaw, it is a signal. It once nudged your ancestors to explore new territories, to invent tools, to imagine possibilities. Boredom is the spark that arises when the brain senses that its current environment is understimulating. It is the itch that led to discovery, the restlessness that pushed humanity forward. But when every hint of boredom is immediately answered by a screen, the brain no longer learns to navigate the space between stimuli. It forgets how to drift, how to wait, how to wander in thought. Instead, it expects instant novelty, instant resolution, and when novelty slows, irritation rises. Think of a child who grows used to candy at every meal. Ordinary food loses its taste. In the same way, when your mind grows accustomed to constant stimulation, the gentle flavors of silence, of waiting, of reflection, feel bland. They are not enough. The threshold of interest rises, and with it the discomfort of stillness. Now reflect on this in daily life. Perhaps you have noticed that watching a film without checking your phone feels difficult, as though 2 hours is an unreasonable span for focus, or that sitting in quiet for a few minutes brings not peace but restlessness. Even in conversation, there may be a subtle urge to check, as if words spoken face to face compete with the lure of unseen voices glowing elsewhere. This change is not just about preference, it reshapes the nervous system. Studies show that people who check their phones frequently experience heightened sensitivity to small delays, reacting more strongly to waiting. The mind, conditioned to constant input, treats stillness as a kind of deprivation. Silence becomes a vacuum that must be filled. But boredom has a secret gift. When allowed to stretch, it opens space for imagination. The wandering mind stitches together ideas, memories, and possibilities in ways that structured focus cannot. Many breakthroughs, artistic and scientific, have arisen from idle moments, time when the mind was left to roam without direction. To lose boredom is to lose this hidden workshop of creativity. Pause with this thought. If every pause in life is filled with a scroll, what becomes of the mind's capacity to dream? If every moment is occupied by stimulation, what becomes of the ability to rest in one's own company? This is not to say stimulation is harmful in itself. It is to say that balance matters. The mind, like the body, needs variation, movement and stillness, sound and silence, effort and rest. Without boredom, you live only in reaction, never in reflection. And there is an emotional thread here too. When stillness feels unbearable, anxiety grows. The inability to be alone with your thoughts becomes a kind of dependency, a need for the screen as both companion and distraction. The device soothes boredom, but in doing so it also amplifies the discomfort of its absence. Here lies the paradox. What feels like relief in the moment becomes restlessness in the long term. Each time you escape boredom through your phone, you make boredom itself harder to endure the next time. Slowly, the mind loses tolerance for one of life's most ordinary states. But the cost is greater still. If boredom once prepared your ancestors to explore, then its loss leaves you vulnerable in new ways. Because when stillness becomes unbearable, you become easier to control, eager for any distraction offered, hungry for any stream of novelty, less able to choose silence when silence is needed. So the question deepens. If the device erodes your tolerance for boredom, what else does it erode? The answer begins with something even more fragile than focus, the foundation of your emotional balance. For what grows in the soil of constant stimulation is not calm, but anxiety. Checkpoint. Working memory flickers under constant switching, boredom tolerance collapses, and restlessness rises, therefore calm feels wrong. Up next, pocket anxiety and sleep as the quiet victims. You feel it when your phone is not in sight, a faint unease, a tightening in the chest, a quiet whisper that something might be happening without you. Perhaps it is a message left unread, a conversation moving forward without your presence, or a piece of news that others have seen before you. This whisper has a name in our modern language, the fear of missing out. Yet beneath the phrase lies a deeper truth. It is anxiety distilled into a portable form, carried in your pocket. Imagine standing outside a closed door. Behind it, voices murmur, laughter rises, events unfold. You cannot see them, but you know they are there. Your mind strains to catch fragments through the keyhole, unwilling to accept exclusion. This is the state your phone creates, not once in a while, but continually. The possibility of missing something is ever present, and with it the constant hum of unease. From a scientific view, this unease comes from the same circuits that once signaled danger when you were separated from your group. For our ancestors, being left out was not simply unpleasant, it was life-threatening. Alone, one was vulnerable. Together, one was safe. This wiring still pulses within you, and each time your phone hints at new activity, those ancient instincts stir. Missing out feels dangerous, even when the danger is only a conversation thread or a trending image. The result is a paradoxical cycle. The more you check your phone to relieve anxiety, the more the device deepens it. A message soothes the fear for a moment, but then the cycle restarts. Relief becomes temporary, and the baseline of tension slowly rises. The very object that seems to calm you is also the one that perpetuates the discomfort. There is another layer. The body itself responds. When your phone lights up, your nervous system shifts subtly into a state of alert. Heart rate quickens, muscles tighten, eyes sharpen. These are the same physiological changes once triggered by rustling bushes or sudden sounds in the wild, signals that something required immediate attention. Yet here, the trigger is not a predator but a screen. The system designed to save your life is repurposed to save your streak, your message, your notification count. And when this heightened state occurs late at night, the effects extend further. The glow of the screen suppresses the hormones that prepare you for rest. The tension of waiting for responses keeps your brain on edge, unwilling to let go. What seems like a simple scroll in bed becomes biologically a thief of deep sleep. Morning arrives with fatigue not just from lost hours but from the nervous system never fully returning to calm. Reflect on this for a moment. Imagine carrying a small thief in your pocket, one that does not take money or objects, but energy. Every buzz is a coin taken, every glance a bill removed. You wake with less than you had, not because of what you did, but because of what was taken invisibly, piece by piece. Emotionally, the cost compounds. Constant checking brings not only anxiety, but also guilt, the sense that you should be more present, more focused, more disciplined. You may chastise yourself, not realizing that you are contending with designs meant to exploit vulnerabilities older than civilization. It is not weakness that pulls you back, it is the deliberate engagement of systems meant to keep you safe in another age. And yet, recognizing this truth offers a sliver of freedom. If you see the pattern, you can begin to question it. Is this buzz truly urgent? Is this glow truly worth the cost of my calm? Awareness does not erase the pull, but it does create a pause, and in that pause lies the possibility of choice. Still, there is more to uncover. Anxiety and restlessness are not the only costs hidden in your pocket. The same patterns that steal calm also erode one of your most vital needs, the deep rhythms of rest. Because when the mind is trained to stay alert, night becomes another arena of vigilance. To understand the full reach of this design, we must now look at how the phone transforms the very landscape of sleep itself. Night falls. You dim the lights, slip into bed, and let the quiet surround you. Yet the glow of your phone lingers, a small sun that refuses to set. It sits beside you like a companion, promising connection, stimulation, entertainment. You tell yourself just one more glance, just one more scroll. But what you are truly inviting into your bedroom is not company, it is disruption. Sleep is not merely rest, it is a symphony of rhythms that restore memory, cleanse the brain of toxins, balance emotions, and reset the machinery of focus. When sleep falters, everything falters: mood, attention, resilience. Yet the phone, with its light and its pull, intrudes upon this ancient cycle in ways both visible and invisible. Begin with the light. The screen emits a spectrum that your eyes read as daylight. Deep inside your brain, a tiny cluster of cells measures this light to set your internal clock. For most of human history, the fading of the sun meant the signal to produce the hormones of rest. But when a glowing screen is held inches from your face at midnight, the brain is tricked into believing the day has not yet ended. The signal to wind down is delayed. Sleep retreats further into the night. Now add the stimulation. The act of checking messages, watching videos, scrolling through feeds, all of these engage the very circuits meant to keep you alert and ready. Even if the content is trivial, the effect is arousal. Heart rate rises, thought loops activate, anticipation lingers. You may set the phone down, but your nervous system remains on guard, waiting, restless. The body lies in bed, but the mind does not believe it is safe enough to let go. Consider how this plays out in daily life. Perhaps you wake feeling tired even after a full night in bed. Perhaps you find your dreams fragmented, or your mood more fragile. These are not random misfortunes, they are signs of disrupted cycles. Sleep has stages, deep and light, each with a role in restoration. The phone's glow and buzz pull you out of the deeper ones, leaving you stranded in shallower rest. You wake but not renewed. Think of it as a thief that never steals everything at once. Instead it takes a little each night, 10 minutes here, 20 there, a fragment of deep sleep exchanged for shallow distraction. Over weeks and months, the loss accumulates. Energy dwindles, patience thins, resilience cracks. What feels like ordinary tiredness is in truth the erosion of the very foundation of mental health. And there is another twist. The device that robs your rest also promises to fill the gap. Tired from poor sleep, you turn to your phone more often during the day, for stimulation, for distraction, for connection. The cycle feeds itself. Sleep disruption leads to more phone use. More phone use leads to sleep disruption. What seems like choice becomes entanglement. Reflect on the paradox. The tool you keep by your bed for safety and connection may be the very force that weakens the safety of your rest and the depth of your recovery. You would not invite a thief into your home at night, yet many of us do so willingly, placing it on the nightstand within arm's reach, glowing quietly into the dark. And yet awareness transforms the scene. To see the phone not as neutral, but as a thief of rhythms, is to gain the power to guard those rhythms again. The choice to set it aside before bed is not deprivation, it is protection, the way one locks a door before sleeping. Still, to truly understand the power of this device, we must look beyond rest, beyond the surface of daily routines, and into the deeper truth. The anticipation of what might appear on your screen excites your brain more than what is actually there. The next message, the next scroll, the next possibility, that is where the real power hides. You hear the faint buzz, see the glow, or simply imagine that something might be waiting on the other side of the screen. In that instant your heart quickens. The thought of a message is enough to pull you in, even before you know who it is from or what it says. This is the trap of anticipation, the way your brain is wired to respond more strongly to the possibility of reward than to the reward itself. Consider this: the moment just before you open a message often feels sharper, more charged, than the act of reading it. A friend's words may bring comfort, a meme may spark laughter, a notification may bring nothing at all. But the surge of energy happens before you know. Your brain's chemistry prepares you for discovery, lighting up pathways of expectation, whispering that something important is near. This mechanism once guided survival. When your ancestors searched for food, the anticipation of finding it was crucial. It kept them moving, kept them exploring, kept them alive. The fruit itself mattered less than the drive to seek it. Without anticipation, there would have been no hunt, no exploration, no persistence. But now that same mechanism is hijacked. Instead of guiding you toward nourishment or shelter, it pulls you toward notifications and scrolls. Each time your phone lights up, your brain releases a wave of anticipation, urging you forward. The irony is that once you satisfy the urge by opening the message, the chemistry fades quickly. The glow inside your mind was brighter before the reveal than after. Imagine walking through a door, certain a treasure lies beyond it. Your pulse races as you turn the handle, but once the door opens, the treasure is smaller than expected, or not there at all. Still, the excitement of the moment before the turning of the handle was real. That moment becomes addictive because your brain learns to crave the tension more than the resolution. This explains why you refresh feeds, even when little of value appears. Each swipe is another door handle, another possibility. The jewels are rare, but the thrill of maybe keeps you going. You are not addicted to the content, you are addicted to the anticipation of what the content might be. Science has shown that the dopamine system is tuned less to rewards themselves than to the prediction of rewards. It is the uncertainty that fuels the fire. A message could be from a loved one, from a stranger, from no one of consequence. The range of possibilities creates the hook. The brain is never more alive than when it waits for the unknown. Reflect on how this shapes your behavior. Perhaps you have checked your phone dozens of times in a single hour, often without finding anything meaningful. Yet each time felt urgent. Each time carried the weight of possibility. The result is a cycle of endless reaching, fueled not by satisfaction but by the hunger that precedes it. And there is a deeper cost. When your brain is conditioned to expect excitement from anticipation, ordinary life can feel muted. A quiet walk, a long conversation, a slow book, these lack the constant peaks of expectation. They feel flat by comparison, not because they are less meaningful, but because your brain has been trained to prefer the sharp, artificial spikes of maybe. Pause with that thought. If anticipation is more powerful than satisfaction, then your phone does not need to deliver much to keep you hooked. It only needs to promise. A buzz, a glow, a dot, these are enough to trigger the cycle again. You are pulled not by what you receive, but by what you imagine you might. But what does this mean for the way you live, hour by hour, day by day? It means that the number of times you reach for your phone may not reflect how much you truly need it, but how deeply you are caught in the loop of possibility. To see this clearly, we must next look at the sheer scale of the habit. How many times, without knowing, you are pulled back into the cycle? The answer is not just surprising, it is staggering. You might believe you check your phone only a handful of times a day when a message arrives, when you need directions, when you want to pass a moment of waiting. But studies reveal a very different picture. The average person looks at their phone around 150 times in 24 hours. That is not a habit. That is a rhythm as steady as breathing, woven into the fabric of daily life. Pause for a moment and let the number sink in. 150 glances. That is more often than most people eat, drink water, or speak to a loved one. It is a frequency that rivals some of your body's most natural urges. Your phone has become not just a tool you use, but a cycle you inhabit. Imagine standing in a gallery where every painting is a doorway. Each time you glance, you step through another door, hoping for something different on the other side. 150 doors in a single day. How much of your journey was truly chosen, and how much was simply the momentum of stepping again and again? Science offers an explanation. Each glance is reinforced by micro-rewards. Most of them are trivial. A notification about an app update, a message already read, a scroll through familiar images, but occasionally, one glance brings something meaningful. This rare reward strengthens the cycle, training you to keep checking, to keep stepping through the doors. The pattern mirrors that of gambling. Many spins of the wheel bring nothing, but the possibility of one win keeps you spinning all the same. Reflect on what this means for your attention. Each glance interrupts the continuity of your day. You may believe you can return to what you were doing instantly, but the mind needs time to recover from interruption. Focus, once broken, must be rebuilt. Multiply this by 150, and you begin to see the hidden cost, not just the minutes spent looking, but the hours lost to fractured concentration. Think of your attention as a glass window. Each glance at your phone is a small crack. One or two may not matter, but after 150, the surface is no longer clear. Light still passes through, but distorted, scattered. You see the world, but not with the clarity you once had. Now consider the emotional dimension. Each glance is tinged with expectation, a spark of anticipation. But when most glances bring little, disappointment accumulates. The mind learns to tolerate this disappointment, but beneath the surface it drains energy, leaving you subtly more restless, more fatigued. You may end the day wondering why you feel scattered or exhausted, unaware that your energy has leaked out through 100 tiny holes. And there is another cost, less obvious but more profound. Each glance is a withdrawal from the present. When you reach for your phone in the middle of a conversation, a meal, or a moment of solitude, you divide yourself. Part of you is here, and part of you is elsewhere. Multiply this by 150, and you begin to see how rarely you live in undivided presence. But the question lingers. If this cycle is so consuming, why does it exist in the first place? Why has technology been shaped in ways that amplify rather than reduce these compulsive patterns? The answer lies in the deliberate choices of those who design the devices and platforms themselves. For the next step in our journey, we must look at the invisible puppeteers, the architects who studied your brain in order to capture it. Behind every glow, every buzz, every swipe, there are choices. Choices you did not make, but that were made for you. Your phone is not a neutral object. It is a stage designed by invisible puppeteers, engineers, designers, and most intriguingly, neuroscientists hired by technology companies to study the architecture of your brain and bend it toward their goals. Imagine a puppet theater. On the stage, strings move the characters. You see their gestures, their dances, their performances, but the hands above, hidden from view, control every motion. In the same way, each notification badge, each infinite scroll, each streak counter is not accidental. It is a string pulled deliberately, tested, refined, and perfected to hold your attention. Companies discovered long ago that attention is not just valuable, it is currency. The more minutes you spend on a platform, the more data is collected, the more advertisements can be shown, the more influence can be sold. Your attention is traded as though it were gold. To keep you engaged, the designers needed more than convenience, they needed compulsion. This is why the brightest minds in neuroscience and behavioral psychology were recruited, not to heal, not to teach, but to capture. They studied the same mechanisms we have explored: dopamine anticipation, intermittent rewards, the tug-of-war between impulse and control. But instead of simply describing these systems, they learned how to build environments that exploit them. Think of the infinite scroll. In older designs, reaching the end of a page meant a natural pause. You could stop, reflect, walk away. But with endless scrolling, there is no edge, no bottom. Your brain searches for closure, but never finds it. The puppeteers remove the door, so you walk endlessly down a hallway that stretches forever. Or consider the streak counter in messaging apps, a feature that rewards you for consecutive days of interaction. This design transforms casual communication into obligation. The fear of breaking the streak is stronger than the joy of maintaining it. What was once a tool for connection becomes a leash, tugging you back daily, lest you lose what was never truly yours to begin with. Even the sound of a notification is tuned. A single tone is tested against others to see which one produces the fastest response, the highest arousal, the most reliable pull. Entire teams work on these micro details, because each fraction of a second you shave off your response means more engagement, more profit, more power. Pause here, reflect on what this means. The very systems that evolved to protect you, are now rented out to guide your hand toward a screen. Your impulses are not simply quirks of biology, they are commodities, bought and sold in boardrooms far from your sight. Yet this realization is not meant to fill you with paranoia, but with clarity. To see the strings is to understand the play. To know that your habits are not entirely your own is to open a space for awareness, and in that space, choice can return. But awareness also reveals a deeper question. If designers can recruit your brain's ancient systems, then what happens to those systems themselves over time? What happens when anticipation, impulse, and reward are pulled so often, so relentlessly, that the very structure of your brain begins to change? The next step is to uncover how repeated scrolling and checking reshape the networks of attention, not just in the moment, but in the long-term architecture of your mind. Where are we now? Anticipation hooks harder than reward. 150 glances a day reveal compulsive loops, and design removes natural stopping points. Therefore attention is engineered. Next, plasticity rewired, and the social mirror that trades belonging for likes. Think of your brain not as a fixed machine, but as a living forest. Paths form where feet tread. Often, trails grow wider with repetition, while unused ones become overgrown, fading into silence. This is the essence of plasticity, the ability of your brain to reshape itself in response to experience. Every glance at your phone, every scroll, every swipe leaves a footprint on this forest floor. Over time, those footprints do not vanish, they carve, they alter the terrain. When you engage with your phone dozens, even hundreds of times a day, you are not merely reacting, you are training. Each interaction strengthens certain neural pathways, pruning others. Just as a musician's brain reshapes itself to favor the fine movements of fingers, your brain reshapes itself to favor rapid shifts of attention, quick bursts of focus, and constant seeking of novelty. Science has observed this. People who spend large amounts of time on digital devices show changes in the networks responsible for attention and working memory. These networks become more adept at handling short, shallow bursts of input, but less capable of sustaining long, deep focus. The forest grows dense with quick, twisting trails, but loses its wide, steady roads. Imagine trying to read a novel in such a forest. The main path is overgrown, while side trails beckon constantly. You take one, then another, never walking far before being diverted. The story itself becomes fragmented, the thread lost among distractions. This is what happens to thought when attention is repeatedly trained toward fragmentation. There is another consequence. The constant stream of novelty conditions the brain to expect stimulation at a high frequency. Ordinary life conversations, quiet meals, walks in nature may feel slower, less rewarding by comparison. The forest becomes restless, always searching for another quick trail, unable to stay on a single path for long. Reflect on how this feels in daily life. Perhaps you have noticed a rising impatience with tasks that once absorbed you, reading, studying, listening. Perhaps you find yourself checking your phone, even while doing something enjoyable, as though joy itself is no longer enough without the addition of novelty. This is not weakness, it is adaptation. Your brain is learning from the environment it inhabits, and the environment is one of endless interruption. But plasticity is not destiny. Just as repetition carves shallow trails, deliberate practice can rebuild the wide roads. Meditation, deep reading, uninterrupted work, these are ways of training the forest to grow differently. The same plasticity that makes distraction powerful also makes recovery possible. The brain does not harden like stone, it bends like branches, always capable of new growth. Still, the cost of ignoring this is profound. If the forest is left untended, it becomes not only fragmented, but also rewired in its sense of reward. Dopamine pathways grow tuned to instant novelty, leaving deeper forms of satisfaction harder to access. Creativity, patience, empathy, these thrive in slower rhythms, in paths that stretch further. When those paths fade, so too does the ease of inhabiting them. Pause here. Picture your own mind as a forest at night. Which trails are lit by lanterns from constant use? Which ones have grown dim with neglect? If you follow the lit trails too often, you may forget the others exist. The design of your phone ensures certain trails remain bright, but you still hold the lantern, you still choose where to walk. And yet another question lingers. If your brain is reshaped by constant use, what does this mean for your relationships, for the ways you connect with others? Because attention does not exist only in solitude, it is also the foundation of how we see and are seen. And the next step of our journey leads us to that mirror. The way your phone turns validation into survival cues, and why approval online feels so much like belonging in life. You post a photo, you share a thought, you send a message into the endless sea of digital voices, and then you wait, not just for a reply, but for the subtle signs that you have been noticed, a like, a heart, a comment, a view. When these arrive, they feel more than symbolic. They feel like a confirmation that you exist, that you matter, that you belong. Your phone has become a mirror, not of your face, but of your social worth. For thousands of years, the human brain has been shaped by the need to belong. Survival was not a solitary act. To be part of the group meant protection, food, and safety. To be cast out meant danger, vulnerability, and often death. Because of this, your brain evolved to treat social approval as vital as water or shelter. A nod, a smile, a welcoming glance from another person once reassured your ancestors that they were not alone in the world. Now those signals arrive in the form of icons, a digital thumbs up, a red heart, a view counter climbing by one. The brain does not distinguish cleanly between the two. The same circuits that once measured tribe acceptance now measure follower counts and comment threads. The ancient need for belonging has been repackaged, sold back to you in glowing symbols. Consider how this feels. When someone likes your post, there is a surge of warmth, a momentary lift. When silence follows instead, there is unease, perhaps even a pang of rejection. Rationally, you may dismiss it, but emotionally, the circuitry is older than reason. Your brain interprets silence not as absence, but as exclusion. Imagine a campfire thousands of years ago. Your place in the circle was everything. To be welcomed was life. To be ignored was threat. Today, your phone recreates this circle in miniature. Each notification is a spark from the fire. Each absence is a shadow at its edge. You are wired to respond, to care, to measure yourself against the reflections cast back at you. The danger is subtle. Social mirrors on phones are not polished evenly. They distort. They show highlights instead of reality, approval instead of authenticity. Yet because the brain is eager for signs of belonging, it accepts these distortions as truth. The result is a feedback loop. You shape what you share to earn approval, and in turn the approval shapes how you see yourself. Slowly, the mirror does not only reflect, it sculpts. Reflect on this in your own life. Perhaps you've felt disappointment when a post you cared about was ignored, or elation when something trivial gained attention. Perhaps you've noticed how easily your mood can be lifted or lowered by numbers on a screen. This is not vanity, it is biology, wired to equate attention with survival. But what is the cost? If validation is sought so often, the absence of it becomes heavy. Anxiety grows. Self-worth shifts from an inner foundation to an outer scoreboard. And when belonging feels uncertain, energy drains, focus weakens, rest is disturbed. The mirror that promised connection becomes a source of fragility. Pause here. Imagine again that campfire. But now, instead of warm faces around you, you see only flickering shadows, sometimes smiling, sometimes turning away. Would you feel safe? Would you feel steady? This is the emotional landscape your phone can create, a mirror that never stops shifting, never offers full rest. And yet, awareness brings perspective. To recognize that your brain interprets digital approval as survival is to see the distortion. Belonging is not measured in likes but in presence, in relationships that breathe beyond the screen. The mirror may pull you in, but you are more than its reflection. Still, the mirror does not stand alone. Its pull is strengthened by something even more draining, the constant leak of energy that comes from living in a state of perpetual checking, perpetual partial attention. To see the full cost, we must next turn to the cycle that leaves you exhausted even when you believe you've done nothing at all. You end the day feeling strangely tired, not the kind of fatigue that follows heavy work or long travel, but a thinner, quieter exhaustion, as if countless drops of energy have leaked out without you noticing. You cannot point to a single task that drained you, yet the weight is there. This is the hidden cost of the energy drain cycle, the subtle exhaustion created not by doing too much, but by being pulled too often. Every time you check your phone, your brain shifts states. Imagine gears grinding, turning from one focus to another. These shifts are not free. They consume resources. To move from writing an email to glancing at a notification, from reading a book to checking a message, your brain pays a toll. 1 or 2 shifts might pass unnoticed, but multiplied over the 150 glances a day, the toll becomes heavy. Science shows that each interruption can leave a residue, a trace of attention still clinging to the task you abandoned. Even after you return, part of your mind remains scattered. This residue builds throughout the day, leaving you mentally cluttered. You may feel as though you have been busy, yet little has been accomplished. The cycle creates the sensation of effort without the satisfaction of completion. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with tiny stones. One stone is light, hardly felt, but each time you check your phone, another is added. By evening, the weight surprises you. It is not that one glance was heavy, but that together, the accumulation bends your shoulders. There is also the constant readiness. Even when your phone is silent, your body stays slightly alert, waiting for the next buzz, the next glow. This state of vigilance burns energy, like an engine idling all day. You may not notice the fuel being consumed, but the tank empties nonetheless. Reflect on this in your own life. Perhaps you've noticed that days filled with little tasks and constant checking feel more draining than days of deep, focused work. Perhaps you've felt the paradox of being busy yet unsatisfied, tired yet restless. This is the signature of the energy drain cycle, your effort scattered into fragments too small to build anything whole. And there is a deeper cost. When attention leaks, so does emotional resilience. Small frustrations feel larger, patience shortens, and joy feels muted. Just as a phone battery drains when too many apps run in the background, your mind drains when too many small demands run silently, pulling at your energy. But here lies the quiet trap. Because the device itself becomes the source of both exhaustion and attempted relief. Feeling tired, you reach for your phone to scroll, seeking stimulation. For a moment, it lifts you, but this lift is shallow, and it costs you more energy in the long run. Like drinking salt water to quench thirst, the relief deepens the need. Pause here. Imagine a well leaking drop by drop. By nightfall, the well is nearly empty. Tomorrow, it will refill, but the cycle repeats. Unless the leaks are sealed, no amount of rest can fully restore what is lost. Your energy is not just consumed by what you do, it is drained by what you resist, by what interrupts, by what fragments your day into countless pieces. And yet, awareness is the first seal. To recognize the leaks is to begin patching them. But before we consider repair, we must understand the illusion that makes this cycle so difficult to break. The belief that we are in control when, in truth, much of our behavior has been scripted. To see how deep the strings go, we must next explore the illusion of control. You tell yourself you are in control. You say, I'll just check this one notification, I'll just open this app for a minute, I'll stop whenever I choose. It feels true because you experience the act of unlocking, tapping, scrolling as deliberate. But beneath the surface, the story is more complicated. Much of what feels like choice is closer to choreography, movements already set in motion before awareness arrives. Think of a magician who asks you to pick a card. You believe your selection is free, but through subtle cues, where he places the deck, how he gestures, what he emphasizes, your choice has been guided all along. The astonishment comes not from the trick itself, but from realizing that what felt spontaneous was directed. In a similar way, your interactions with your phone are filled with invisible nudges, carefully arranged so that the path you walk feels voluntary, though it has been paved in advance. Science reveals that many of your actions are initiated milliseconds before you consciously decide them. By the time you choose to check your phone, neural activity is already underway, muscles primed, hand reaching. You narrate it afterward as a decision, but in truth, it is often a reflex, framed by design. The notification dot, the buzz, the endless feed, they are the cues, the nudges, the hands on the magician's deck. Reflect on how this plays out. You open your phone to check a single message, but on the way a badge catches your eye. You click. One glance becomes 10 minutes. 10 minutes become half an hour. Later, you may say, I lost track of time, as if the lapse were your fault. But the environment was crafted precisely to extend your stay. Infinite scroll ensures there is no natural exit. Autoplay ensures one video leads seamlessly into the next. Every design choice works to remove stopping points so that leaving feels unnatural. Now picture a labyrinth. You enter willingly, expecting to choose your path, but each turn is constructed to lead you deeper, not out. At the center, you may forget there even was an entrance. This is the illusion of control, believing you navigate freely when the corridors themselves are steering you. The emotional cost is heavy. Believing you are in control while repeatedly experiencing loss of control breeds guilt. You may call yourself undisciplined, distracted, weak, but guilt only deepens the cycle, driving you back to the very device that soothes you temporarily. The illusion traps you not only in behavior, but in self-perception. Yet there is power in seeing the illusion for what it is. Just as a magician's trick loses its magic once revealed, the spell of design weakens when you recognize it. Knowing that your attention is being guided does not remove the pull, but it does create distance, the crucial pause where genuine choice can re-enter. Pause with this thought. Control is not about never feeling the pull, it is about seeing the strings and deciding when to let them tug and when to cut them. Without awareness, you are the puppet. With awareness, you are the puppeteer, reclaiming the stage. And this leads us toward a shift. If environments can be designed to capture your mind, they can also be designed to free it. The next step is not resistance alone, but redesign, learning how to shape the space around you so that control is not a fragile act of willpower, but the natural path of your environment. Look around the room you are in right now. Notice the objects within reach, the glow of the screen, the placement of the phone itself. These details may feel ordinary, but they are not neutral. Environments guide behavior more powerfully than intention. If your phone rests face up beside you, it will pull at your eyes. If it buzzes from your pocket, it will tug at your attention. If the screen glows in the dark, it will intrude upon your rest. To believe that willpower alone can resist these cues is to underestimate how deeply environments shape you. Think of a river carving through stone. The flow of water determines the shape of the landscape over time. Your environment is the river. Your behavior is the stone. You may think you are choosing freely, but the current steers your course. The secret to reclaiming control is not to fight the current endlessly, but to redirect it, reshaping your environment so that the natural flow carries you where you wish to go. One simple shift is silence. Notifications are not merely reminders, they are triggers. Each sound, each vibration recruits your ancient circuits of urgency. By silencing them, you reduce the number of invisible strings pulling at you. Another shift is color. When screens are switched to grayscale, the bright lure of icons dulls. The phone remains functional, but the hooks lose some of their shine. Think of these changes not as deprivations, but as redesigns of your mental landscape. Just as an architect arranges a home to welcome light and ease movement, you can arrange your digital environment to welcome clarity. Where you place your phone matters. A device on the nightstand invites intrusion into sleep. A device left in another room invites rest. A phone on the table during meals invites division. A phone set aside invites presence. Reflect on how this feels in daily life. Imagine a dinner without the pull of a screen, a walk unbroken by glances, a night of sleep unlit by notifications. These are not small shifts. They are profound restorations of rhythms that once came naturally. By designing your environment, you make the harder choice the default one, the easier path the better one. There is another layer, digital boundaries. Apps can be arranged so that the most distracting ones are hidden, buried in folders, while essential tools remain accessible. Time limits can be set, not as rigid rules but as gentle reminders. Each of these boundaries is another stone placed along the riverbank, guiding the current without needing constant resistance. Pause with this thought. If engineers design your phone to capture you, then you can design your surroundings to protect you. You cannot remove the pull entirely, but you can soften it, redirect it, make it less automatic. In doing so, you transform control from a fragile act of discipline into a natural byproduct of design. And yet, environment alone is not enough. Just as muscles strengthen with practice, attention itself must be retrained. The next step is not only about removing cues, but about building new habits, small victories that remind you, moment by moment, that the device does not own you. You can choose when to hold it and when to let it rest. Picture yourself at the dinner table. The phone lies beside your plate, face down, silent. For a moment you feel its presence tugging at you. But tonight, you decide differently. You leave it there, untouched, and instead lean into the conversation, the food, the laughter. Hours later, you realize you did not miss much on the screen, but you gained something in return, a memory, a moment, a sense of presence. This is a micro-victory. Micro-victories are not grand battles. They are small, deliberate choices, moments where you reclaim attention, where you prove to yourself that control is possible. They matter because change is not built in leaps but in steps. Each small step strengthens the pathways of choice, just as each glance once strengthened the pathways of compulsion. Think of them as drops of water shaping stone. A single drop may feel meaningless, but thousands carve valleys. In the same way, each time you choose to set your phone aside, you carve new grooves into your brain's forest of pathways. Over time, those grooves grow into trails, and the trails into roads. One micro-victory might be leaving your phone outside the bedroom for a night. Another might be creating a phone-free zone at the dinner table. Another might be deciding that the first 10 minutes of your morning belong to you, not to your device. None of these erase the habit entirely, but each one loosens its grip. Science supports this approach. Habits are not erased by force, they are replaced by alternatives. When you reach for your phone out of boredom, replacing the gesture with another, taking a walk, jotting a note, breathing slowly, begins to rewire the loop. Over time, the new response grows stronger until the old one fades. Reflect on how this feels emotionally. Micro-victories are not just about saving time, they are about restoring dignity. They remind you that you are not merely reactive, not merely a puppet of cues. They show you again and again that even in the smallest ways, you can step off the path laid out for you. And micro-victories compound. A phone-free meal becomes a phone-free evening. A quiet morning becomes a day begun with clarity instead of distraction. Each success builds confidence, and confidence fuels the next success. What begins as a fragile experiment becomes a rhythm, a new normal. Pause and picture this, a room with no glowing screen, just you and the quiet. At first it may feel unsettling, as though something is missing, but with each micro-victory, that quiet begins to feel less like emptiness and more like space. Space for thought, for rest, for connection. Yet micro-victories are not only about removing the phone, they are also about redirecting the powerful reward system inside you, because at the heart of this cycle is dopamine, the chemical of anticipation. If your phone has trained your dopamine to seek quick novelty, then you can retrain it to find satisfaction in deeper, slower, more meaningful rewards. This is the next step of the journey, learning how to reclaim the chemistry itself. Long-form recap. We mapped casino logic, dopamine's trap, memory erosion, boredom loss, anxiety, sleep theft, and the illusion of control. Therefore, freedom needs design, not willpower. Final stretch. Micro-victories, retraining dopamine, deep focus, and the shift from owned to owner. Close your eyes for a moment and think of the last time you felt a surge of accomplishment. Maybe it was finishing a project. Maybe it was exercising. Maybe it was simply keeping a promise to yourself. That warm pulse, that subtle lift inside your chest, that too was dopamine. The same chemical that pulls you to check your phone is also the one that rewards you for effort, persistence, and real-world achievement. The difference lies not in the substance itself, but in how it is trained. Your phone has taught dopamine to respond to quick cues, the glow of a notification, the swipe of a finger, the endless refresh of a feed. Each of these offers an immediate spark of novelty with little effort required. Over time, the brain adapts, learning to expect this easy stimulation. The result is impatience with anything slower, restlessness with anything deeper. Why wait for the slow growth of a tree when you can harvest instant fruit from a glowing screen? But dopamine can be retrained. Just as repetition carved shallow grooves of compulsion, new repetition can carve deeper grooves of meaning. When you set small goals and achieve them, writing a paragraph, preparing a meal, finishing a walk, dopamine responds. When you link satisfaction not to endless novelty but to steady progress, the chemistry of your brain begins to shift. Imagine this retraining like tuning an instrument. At first, the notes are sharp, off-key, impatient, but with patience, the strings tighten, the tones align, and music emerges again. Your dopamine system is the same, capable of harmony when directed toward effort, learning, and real connection. Science confirms this. People who practice deliberate focus, exercise, or creative work report higher and more stable satisfaction than those who chase novelty alone. The brain adapts to effort as it adapts to distraction. Each time you choose to persist rather than escape, you are teaching your brain that reward lives not only in anticipation, but in achievement. Reflect on how this feels in daily life. The satisfaction of finishing a task is subtler than the thrill of a notification, but it lingers longer. The joy of learning something new grows over hours and days, not seconds, but it leaves a deeper imprint. The warmth of true connection, face to face, is slower to arrive but far richer than a string of digital hearts. This retraining does not require grand gestures. It begins with micro-victories, choosing one task to finish without interruption, choosing to notice the satisfaction of effort instead of rushing to the next novelty. Each time you pause to feel that deeper reward, you reinforce a new loop. Pause here. Picture yourself planting seeds. Each seed is a small effort, a moment of presence. At first, the soil looks empty, the effort invisible, but slowly sprouts emerge. Over weeks, they grow into trees. Over years, they form a forest. The quick fruits of the phone cannot compare to the nourishment of this patient garden. And here lies the turning point. Once dopamine is retrained to value progress over novelty, depth over immediacy, you begin to recover what was eroded, the ability to focus, to create, to connect. The same system that was hijacked becomes your ally again. But what does life feel like when attention is no longer scattered, when dopamine rewards you for staying rather than escaping? The answer is profound. It is the rediscovery of deep focus, the ability to sink into a single task or moment and let the rest of the world fade. That is where we turn next. Imagine sitting with a book. At first your eyes skim, your mind fidgets, the urge to reach for your phone whispers at the edge of awareness, but then you resist, just long enough for the words to begin weaving themselves together. Slowly, the thread of the story tightens, and the noise around you fades. Minutes pass, then an hour, and you realize you have been absorbed completely. This is deep focus, the state your brain was built to enter, yet has nearly forgotten. Deep focus is not just attention, it is immersion. In this state, the prefrontal regions of your brain align with networks of memory and emotion, forming a tunnel where distractions dissolve. Your sense of time shifts. 10 minutes can feel like 1, or 1 can feel like 10. The boundary between effort and enjoyment blurs. What once seemed difficult becomes almost effortless because all of you is engaged. But reaching this state is fragile. Each buzz, each glance, each quick check shatters the tunnel. The spell breaks, and rebuilding it takes time. Scientists studying attention have found that after even a brief interruption, it can take more than 20 minutes to return fully to a task. This means that every glance at your phone is not just a second stolen, it is an entire block of focus erased. Picture deep focus as a candle flame in still air. It burns bright and steady, illuminating everything around it. Each distraction is a gust of wind. With enough gusts, the flame sputters, flickers, and may even go out. But when the air is calm, the flame grows strong, casting light far beyond itself. Reflect on how different life feels in these two states. Shallow attention leaves you restless, unfinished, fragmented. Deep focus leaves you grounded, satisfied, fulfilled. The joy of finishing a chapter, solving a problem, creating something new. These are rewards that last far longer than the flicker of a notification. They are not fireworks, but embers, glowing steady long after the moment has passed. And deep focus is not only for solitary work, it is the same presence you bring to a conversation when your phone is out of sight, the same absorption you feel in a long walk through nature, the same immersion in music or art. In these moments, your brain is not chasing novelty, it is resting in continuity. Yet here lies the challenge. Deep focus cannot compete with the immediacy of quick rewards unless it is cultivated. Just as a garden requires time and care, focus requires protection from intrusion. Environments must be shaped, habits must be trained, and dopamine must be redirected. When these align, deep focus becomes natural again, as familiar as it once was before the age of constant interruption. Pause and imagine a day designed for focus. Your phone is silenced, placed out of sight. You set your mind to a single task, writing, building, creating, learning. The first minutes feel shaky, as though your attention is a muscle long neglected. But then gradually the tension eases, and the state returns. Hours later, you look back and realize you have built something whole, something lasting. The satisfaction is quiet but profound. This is not nostalgia for a slower world. It is a reminder that the capacity for depth is still inside you, waiting to be reclaimed. The forest of your mind still holds the wide trails, though they may be overgrown. With each return to deep focus, the paths grow clearer, easier to follow, more natural to walk. And as these paths strengthen, something shifts. You begin to feel less like the owned, and more like the owner, less like the puppet, and more like the puppeteer. The next step of our journey is to understand this shift, to see how the balance tips from being controlled to regaining command of your own attention. Picture the long arc of this journey. At first you were pulled without knowing, your hand unlocking the screen before your mind caught up. You were nudged by red dots, startled by phantom vibrations, drawn into endless scrolls. Your brain's ancient chemistry was recruited, your attention fragmented, your energy drained. The device seemed to own you, not the other way around. But slowly, step by step, you began to see the strings. You recognized the casino in your pocket, the tricks of anticipation, the illusion of control. You learned that micro-victories matter, that dopamine can be retrained, that environments can be redesigned. Awareness grew into pauses, pauses grew into choices, and choices into a rhythm. Something began to shift. This shift is not loud. It does not feel like triumph or conquest. It feels more like clarity, like walking into a room and realizing the lights have been on all along. You see the device not as an extension of yourself, but as a tool, a powerful one, yes, but still a tool. And in this moment, you step from being owned to being the owner. Control, you realize, does not mean abandoning your phone. It means remembering it is an object, not a master. You choose when to pick it up, when to set it down. You choose when to let it interrupt and when to guard your silence. The strings no longer disappear into invisibility. They hang in view, and you decide which ones to follow. Imagine standing at the center of a stage. Around you, countless hands tug at ropes, notifications, badges, streaks, algorithms. At first you danced without realizing, moved by their rhythm, but now you see the ropes clearly. You untangle the ones you no longer need. You loosen the knots. You walk with deliberate steps, no longer jerked into motion by every pull. The stage is yours again. Science tells us that awareness itself changes the brain. When you notice your impulses instead of obeying them, you activate the very regions of the mind that govern self-control. Each pause strengthens these circuits, just as each automatic reaction once strengthened compulsion. Ownership is not a one-time act, but a practice built moment by moment, choice by choice. Reflect on how this feels in life. The dinner table without a phone becomes presence. The walk without glances becomes rest. The morning without notifications becomes clarity. None of these require grand resistance. They are gentle refusals, steady reminders that the device belongs to you, not the reverse. And with this shift comes freedom, not freedom from technology, but freedom within it. You are no longer pulled by every string. You use what serves you and release what does not. You navigate the labyrinth with open eyes, aware of its turns, aware of its traps, but no longer lost inside it. Pause here. Feel the weight of this realization. You are not powerless. You never were. You were trained, nudged, guided, but you can retrain, redesign, reclaim. The same plasticity that once made you vulnerable is the same plasticity that makes recovery possible. The forest of your brain is not fixed. It can grow new paths wider and steadier than before. And now, at the final step, we return to the deepest question of all. If your phone is a laboratory of experiments in your pocket, then who, in the end, is the true algorithm, the one that decides, shapes, and directs? The closing of this journey will reveal that answer. Your phone hums softly in your pocket. Its algorithms are vast lines of code predicting what you might want to see, when you might want to see it, how long you might stay once you begin. These invisible engines shape your feeds, your notifications, your digital landscape, and yet beyond them lies something more intricate, more powerful, more unpredictable, you. Algorithms on your phone thrive on patterns. They measure your clicks, your pauses, your swipes, and they build models. But you are not only your patterns. You are the one who can notice them, question them, break them. You are the one who can step outside the script, who can refuse the tug, who can choose stillness over stimulation. This ability to reflect on your own impulses, to step back and see the strings, is something no algorithm can replicate. Imagine your mind as a vast network of stars. Each choice you make, each pause, each refusal to obey the automatic pull, is like lighting a new constellation. Algorithms can predict where you have been, but they cannot fully see the constellations you might draw tomorrow. They cannot account for creativity, for resistance, for the quiet rebellion of reclaiming your own attention. This is the heart of the journey, realizing that your phone is not only a tool, not only a casino, not only a mirror, but also a laboratory where experiments play out daily. The experiment is this: will you follow the patterns laid before you, or will you design your own? The data collected is not just about your clicks, it is about your capacity to choose. Pause here. Consider the paradox. Your brain, shaped by evolution to survive in tribes, to seek novelty, to crave anticipation, is vulnerable to the designs of your device. And yet, the same brain holds the capacity to notice these vulnerabilities, to name them, and to rise above them. That self-awareness is the ultimate algorithm, an intelligence that loops not outward but inward, capable of rewriting its own code. Reflect on the arc we have traveled, from the unconscious unlock, through the casino of distraction, into the hijacked circuits, the stolen sleep, the anticipation trap, the fatigue, the illusions, all the way to this moment of clarity. At every step, the phone seemed to own you, but at every step you carried within you the ability to see, to question, to shift. Ownership was never lost, it was only hidden. And now you stand at the threshold of that realization. Your phone is not your enemy. It is not your master. It is an object, powerful, persuasive, carefully designed, but still an object. Its algorithms may predict your habits, but they cannot replace your awareness. They can study your patterns, but they cannot control the moment you decide to break one. So the closing truth is this: the real algorithm is not in your pocket, it is in you. It is the capacity to pause, to reflect, to choose. It is the light that sees the strings and decides which ones to cut. It is the constellation that no data set can predict. And with that truth, the balance shifts for good. You are not merely the subject of the experiment, you are the author of its outcome.